Top diplomats from the group of 7 leading industrial democracies announced a unified stance on the Israel-Hamas war on Wednesday after intensive meetings in Tokyo. The group condemned Hamas supporting Israel's right to self-defense and called for humanitarian pauses to speed aid to Palestinian civilians in the Gaza Strip. This comes with U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken set to travel to South Korea as Washington and Seoul seek to increase cooperation amid concerns over North Korea's closer military ties with Russia. Daniel Rao tells us more.
The G7 statement, issued after 2 days of talks in Tokyo, focused largely on the Israel-Hamas conflict.
Our first focus here in Tokyo was the crisis in the Middle East. Yesterday evening, I had an opportunity to brief my colleagues on my travel through the region, as well as extensive engagements by President Biden and our entire national security team. The G7 ministers reaffirmed our staunch support for Israel's right and obligation to defend itself and seek to ensure the attacks of October 7th can never happen again in accordance with international humanitarian law.
The G7 statement on Israel and Hamas said all parties must allow unimpeded humanitarian support for civilians, including food, water, medical care, fuel and shelter, and access for humanitarian workers. It outlined the G7 supports humanitarian pauses and corridors to facilitate urgently needed assistance, civilian movement, and the release of hostages. The G7 statement also addressed other issues. On the war in Ukraine, the group pledged its commitment to supporting Kyiv's fight for its sovereignty and territorial integrity. It strongly condemned North Korea's repeated ballistic missile launches as well as arms transfers to Russia. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is traveling to Seoul after the G7 meeting for talks with his South Korean counterpart. The U.S. and South Korea are seeking to step up cooperation in the face of concerns over North Korea's growing military ties with Russia. This comes as North Korea criticized South Korea for removing a law that banned private activists from sending anti-Pyongyang propaganda leaflets to the North. The North insists such activities amount to psychological warfare and has threatened to respond with a shower of shells. Daniel Rao, TVB News.